What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Now, as 2024 draws to an end, I was thinking what will make a good end of the year video, and then it struck me. I've been to a lot of classic car auctions again this year, from all the way up in Newcastle, and I've also been right down south in Dorset, but I've also visited plenty of others across the UK this year, and I thought, should I collect my 10 best classic car auction lots of the year and just create a video? So what I've actually done is I've written down my top 10. It is on a couple of pages, and we're going to go through those vehicles. I'm just going to showcase them for you guys to see. Some of them are bargains, some of them are just clean examples of classic cars, and some of them I just like. They're just for me, they're just personal preferences. But I really do think this selection is quality. We have seen some brilliant lots go under the hammer at so many different auction houses this year. So without further ado, let's take a look at the first one. Now, the first classic car lot takes us back to January 2024. Now, this was my first classic car auction of the year, and Anglia Car Auctions up in Kings Lynn always put on a show. Now, there was one lot that really stood out to me. It was a Mark III Ford Cortina. Now, this was a estate model, and taking a look around it, I just thought this was such a clean car. And when I read the description, it said it was from South Africa. Now, South Africa classic Fords could be a hit or a miss. So I was looking around this, and sometimes they're tarted up and sometimes they're not. I just thought it was a really straight and clean example. I looked inside and all the door cards matched, all the seats matched, and I thought, you know what, this seems like quite a solid motor. So I was scratching around it for a little while, and yeah, it looks really good. Under the bonnet, it had a 2.5 litre V6 engine, and it had just been recently imported into the UK back in December 2023, I think. So someone had already applied for the Nova certificate, and they had got it UK registered, which I thought was great. Another factor that really drew me closer to this Cortina was the fact that it was an automatic. Now, some people at first might shy away from that because they prefer manuals, but you can easily fit a manual gearbox on the back of that V6, and with that automatic tunnel, it means that transmission tunnel is actually bigger than the standard transmission tunnel, and you'll have a lot more room to work around the gearbox. So I thought this was a cracking car. I remember going up there with Dad, and we thought, you know what, this looks like a good buy. Now, the estimate, I've got it written down here, it was £7,000 to £9,000, and I thought if that goes low end, then it's going to be a bargain. Anyway, let's cut to the clip and I'll show you guys what it sold for.
I like this car. With a 5.8 bit, 6 there, 6.2. 6.2 I'm in, that's 6.2. That's 62 £100. 6.3, that's been one originally. Twice. Final time, 6.3. Telephone.
I think that was a bargain. £6,912 for a Mark III Ford Cortina estate. I really did like that thing. I thought that was the one to buy on the day. Nice and cheap, solid car. It was an import, but it's from South Africa and it is right-hand drive. So yeah, it was a win-win, and certainly one that slipped through my net. The second classic car lot of the year took us to Hampson Auctions, who now host their classic car auctions at Bolesworth Castle in Cheshire. Now, one car in particular that really caught my attention was a Mark I Ford Escort. Now, this was livered up to be a RS2000. I believe it had the correct front wings, it had the correct RS steering wheel inside, and a few other details. But at heart, it was a 1.1 Ford Escort. But when I was looking around it, I thought, you know what, not too bad. And when I checked out the estimate, I thought, fair enough. So the estimate on this was £12,000 to £14,000, and you try and get a Mark 1 Escort 2-door that's on the road for that price, it's just merely impossible. So I started looking around it a bit more and I thought, you know what, this isn't too bad. And it had been in long ownership, the second owner owning it for 40 years, which is quite an incredible amount of time. If you think 40 years, that's pretty crazy. So some of these have been passed about quite a lot, but I quite like the look of this one. The only thing I didn't like was the engine bay. Someone had resprayed the Escort in Olympic blue, but the engine bay was still black. I just thought, oh, it's a bit like sort of cutting corners. I thought the engine bay could really do with finishing off. And looking around the bodywork a bit closer, there was some bad repairs that had been done, but I still like the sound of the estimate.
7,705 is online in County Durham. Welcome County Durham. 7,500 now at 7,500, 8,000 now on my left, at 8,000 now with our form bidder now. 9,000 then for the first time, 9,000 for the second time, third and last at £9,000. Nathan, that's your bidder provisionally at 9,000.
Well, there it is, £11,250. Crazy, absolutely crazy cheap. Even if someone buys that and strips it down and decides to do a full restoration on it, I think you'll be quids in. Now, I know it's not a genuine RS, but I still think that was a cheap Mark 1 Escort 2-door. So, yeah, someone got a bargain that day up at Hampson's Classic Car Auction. And as the year progressed, we found ourselves back at Anglia Car Auctions for their April Classic Car Auction. And there was just one car that really stood out to me. It was a lovely Mark 1 Ford Fiesta. Now, I'm instantly drawn to these little hatchbacks because I love them. That's what I've been brought up on. There's actually a Mark 1 Fiesta sitting under that cover behind me. But this was a 1.1S. A vehicle that I've actually never seen at auction before, and the reason that may be is because there's only 10 1.1S Mark 1 Fiestas left on the UK roads. I remember staring at the Mark 1 Fiesta and just admiring the stunning paintwork. I did look under the bonnet and I was showing some criticism towards the seam sealer. But now looking back at the video, I don't know whether that seam sealer is factory or not. I remember in the comments of this video that some people said, you know what, that could be original factory seam sealer because they did just used to slap it on. So yeah, it could well have still been original. Anyway, I took a glance inside the Mark 1 Fiesta as well and I noticed the dashboard was cracking, but they did in the Fiestas, the Mark 1s and the Mark 2s, they did crack quite a lot, so that was just a little job for someone to do, but overall, this 1.1S was clean, and if not the cleanest in the country, I'd say. So when this went under the hammer, I was really interested to see what it would fetch. They're much more rarer than a Mark 1 XR2, but they're not really fetching the same price as them. So this was guided, this was estimated at £8,000 to £10,000, and well, I'll show you guys what it made now.
That's £6,600 on bid, £687,000. That's £7,000 on bid now. They look for too quick anyway, but it's at £7,000 bid here. 7,300. That's 7,374. That's £7,400. Original 7,500. 7,600. That's 7,600 bid. Provisional gallons up. That's £7,800. Provisional. 7,800. That's provisional with you.
So the Fiesta went just over its lower estimate. It sold for £8,424, which I didn't think was a lot of money. And funny enough, I actually know the person who purchased the Fiesta, and well, even if they enjoy it in summer days, don't put a lot of miles on it, and bring it back out again in 4 or 5 years to sell it, they would have definitely made some money on it. Even if the dashboard has been replaced, then that will just make the Fiesta even more mint. So yeah, that was a real star of the show for me at Anglia Car Auctions April sale. Now the next lot that I'm going to feature does make me laugh. It's not a classic, it's probably more of a future classic. But when I recorded this on the day, I kind of turned into a salesman because I was loving it, and I was actually, I think I was trying to egg myself on to buy it. But we were back up at Anglia Car Auctions, this time for their June sale, and I was looking around a 2003 Ford Focus ST170. Now, these cars are becoming really few and far between. It wasn't long ago before they were whizzing round every corner, every high street, but now you really don't see them in clean examples, especially the two-door models. So I was looking around this grey ST170, really clean example. I was reading the description and it has had quite a lot of mechanical work done recently. I couldn't find no rust on the rear arches, which was great. And when I took a look inside this, I tell you what, when you look inside of some of these vehicles, you just can't believe the condition of them. It had covered only 42,000 miles and the driver's seat didn't even look like it had been sat in. And the rear passenger seats, they just looked brand new. I couldn't believe it. I asked them to pop the bonnet because you have to use the key, and when they lifted it up, it was immaculate. Really, really liked the look of this thing, and I'm regretting it a little bit that I didn't buy it now because it was such a clean example. It has clearly been looked after quite a lot. There was only one downside. There was some rust on the near side front wing, which could have been sorted so easily. The wings on them are bolt-on. All you need to do is get a brand new wing, even try and source a genuine Ford one, get that sprayed and get it bolted on, and that would have been a mint car. Now the estimate on this was quite high. It was £4,000 to £6,000, but if you think about it, even if it goes for £4,000 or £5,000 in, I don't even know, 4, 5, 6 years, that's going to be worth 10 grand. It's going to be collectible. So let's see what that made when it went under the hammer.
That brings it back over that 37 twice, final 37.
There you have it. I'm still kicking myself to this day. £3,996 all in. I think this one did sell provisionally at first, but they did manage to do a deal. Just like all of the vehicles that I'm showcasing in this video, they are sold cars. None of them have gone provisional or not sold. So yeah, £3,996 for the ST170. I thought that was a great price. I haven't seen one to this day in that sort of condition, and I just think, even if someone daily drives that for a couple of years, you're not going to put that much miles on it. It's still going to be nice and clean. And I just think it was a true, honest and nice car. So yeah, that was another highlight from 2024. Now, as we stick with Anglia Car Auctions and their June auction, there was one other vehicle that really stood out to me. And that was a 1982 Ford Cortina Crusader. I've always thought these Crusaders are really cool, especially the paint jobs on these. I don't know the colour of this green on the Cortina, but I just loved it. The bodywork was immaculate. I can't even stress to you guys how clean it was. It was amazing, and the interior just matched that condition. Now, this example had only covered 77,000 miles in 40 plus years that it had been on the road, and it was fitted from factory with the 2-litre Pinto, so there's enough power there to get you going. And yeah, once again, this was one that I really couldn't keep my eye off. And when I checked out the estimate, it was just £8,000 to £10,000, which just seemed quite cheap for the Cortina. Now, I know people that grew up with them are going to say that's a lot of money, but for the condition of this Cortina, it didn't have a speck of rust on it. I was really interested to see what this went for, so let's find out.
7, you're 8, 6, 8 to win, 6, 8 back in the room at 68. That's £7,000, still provisional once, twice you're out, it's now for 100. That's provisional in number, please.
So this was another car that did go provisional. It didn't meet its lower estimate, but it did sell. It sold for £7,560. Absolute bargain. 7.5 grand for a Ford Cortina Crusader in mint condition. That was, yeah, a real highlight of that auction. The next lot I spotted at Letchworth Motor Auctions June classic car sale. Now, unfortunately, Letchworth Motor Auctions doesn't actually operate anymore. They closed down, I think, a little bit later on in the year. Unfortunately, I think their rent went sky high and they just had to close, which is such a shame. It was a local auction house to me. But back in June, they did have a classic car sale, and there was a Mark III Ford Escort 1600i that really caught my attention. It was just under their rostrum at Letchworth Motor Auctions, and it was just pride of place. This thing was absolutely immaculate. The description stated that the owner only ever drove it on sunny days, and this car had never seen the rain. Now, it also went on to say that it only had one owner from new and 34,000 miles, which were warranted on the clock, which is just crazy to me. It's just, this car had had such an easy life. I believe the owner had also done all of the vehicle maintenance himself, so there was no documentation for the work that had been done, but they did tell the auction house they had a full service every year. It had a recent cam belt, and I even heard this run, and that CVH was purring away. It sounded amazing. Now, looking around the RS 1600i, I thought this was quite a low estimate. I mean, inside was immaculate as well. As I say, the seats on this one didn't have no fag burns in the cushions, didn't have much bolster wear, the dash was lovely, the carpets were lovely. It was just a cracking car, and even the convertible hood was just perfect, and normally that is quite hard to find one that's in good condition. So the estimate was quite low on this one, I believe. It was just £7,000 to £9,000, and well, you're going to see, it did go quite high when it went under the hammer.
92, 94, 96, 96, 98, 10,000, 10,000 maybe, 10,2, 10,4 maybe, 10,6, 10,8, 10,8, 11,000, 11,2, 11,2 bits, 11,2, 11,4 online, 11,600 pound on the right for and 11,600.
So no one was really expecting that. It sold for £12,650, but it was a minter. And some of these vehicles, I really do challenge people to find a cleaner example. I mean, I know there's probably examples out there, but this was right up there, grade A stuff. This was a true classic Fords that had been preserved and well kept by the owner, and it was great to see that they got good money for it. Was it a bargain? No, probably not, but is it worth adding to someone's lovely collection? Definitely. Still in the summer months, we popped back up to Anglia Car Auctions for their August classic car sale. Now, we attend every single Anglia Car Auction sale just because they're so good, and they're a weekend long sale, hence why quite a lot of their vehicles are featuring in this video. But there was a non-classic Ford that I really fell in love with, and quite a lot of you guys were shocked. Now, this was a 1990 Nissan S13 200 SX Turbo. Now, this had the 1.8 litre engine under the bonnet, and I just fell in love with this thing. Honestly, I've said it about all of these cars so far, but the paintwork was lovely, the interior was lovely, and it even had a dealer plate still at the back. Unfortunately, it didn't have matching dealer number plates, but it did have a genuine dealer number plate at the rear, which is always a bonus point for me. But looking around this thing, I just really liked the look of it. I love the styling. I loved checking it out, and it's just something different for me that wasn't a Ford, and it just surprised me, I guess. It just surprised me how cool, how clean it was, and the estimate for this was £16,000 to £20,000. I think this is actually the most expensive vehicle that I'm featuring in this top 10 classic cars of 2024, but I just loved it so much, I had to follow it through the auction house and see what it sold for.
That lovely red much garden, this 10.5, I think it is 10.5, 11 bit, £11,000, £11,000 fine bid, 11 pot, £13,000, only give it 13, you give it that 13 pot, 13 pot, £14,000 twice, any further interest, this is, and £14,000 only, provisional bid,
So that sold just shy of its lower estimate. It went for £15,336. Now, this is for a standard S13 200SX that hasn't been molested, 68,000 miles on the clock, and had valid MOT. So I didn't think that was a bad price at all. I mean, I'm no way clued up completely with the prices of them, but I didn't think that was a bad price at all. And sticking with Anglia Car Auctions in their August sale, they had such a great selection. I always remember the summer sales just have so many nice cars. The sun's normally shining, and it's a real good weekend visiting. But there was another Mark 1 Ford Escort that caught my attention. This one was a 1974 model which had been modified. It's a 2-litre Pinto under the bonnet, which sounded amazing, and it also had bubble arches fitted. The bodywork had seen better days. It was sprayed in a custom colour, but some of the fiberglass around the bubble arches was cracking slightly. It certainly wasn't the worst. And if we focus back to the Mark 1 Escort we saw at Hampton auctions earlier on in the year, I thought this Escort was slightly better condition. And you know what, the estimate for this was reasonable. It's always the estimates that get you, because you get excited, you go into these auction houses and you think 12.5 to 14.5, you think for a Mark 1 Escort, that's a bargain. Now it won at import, and it was a 2-door Mark 1 Escort. So yeah, 12.5 to 14.5. Let's see what that made when it went under the hammer. And there you go, £12,096. Bargain. I really thought that was a bargain. It was, yeah, the bodywork wasn't really that bad at all. I mean, yeah, there was crack into the fiberglass, but if you wanted to enjoy it for a couple of summers, then do a light resto on the bodywork, then, do you know what I mean? It couldn't have been a problem at all. And yeah, for £12,000, I just think that was such a cracking car. And yeah, Mark 1 Escorts and Mark 2 Escort prices, we all know they're absolutely silly. So yeah, I really do think someone got a bargain that day. Now, as we head from Kings Lynn all the way down to Dorset and Poole to be precise, I visited Southwestern Vehicle Auctions for the first time. I've been meaning to get there for quite some time, and yeah, I visited their classic car auction, which was midweek. So one car just stood out to me, one car, and that was a 1976 Mark II Escort. Now this was a Mordor variant, so people may say it's not as desirable, but I like the Mordors. The camera's currently resting on my Mark II Escort Mordor. I love them. And in the video, I actually got a bidding card. And that was for this vehicle. I never told anyone because I just didn't get around to telling people. But yeah, I got a bidding card. I put my £1,000 deposit down for this, and I got a bidding card. Because this Escort had only covered 10,000 miles. Yeah. 10,000 miles. It was incredible. I think it had 2 owners. The first one, and then I think it went to the brother of the owner. So it was family owned for all its life. I looked at the documents for this vehicle, and I've never seen anything like it. It was one of them folders, and I opened it, and it was bursting at the seams with invoices, receipts. It had stuff like fuel, not fuel receipts, but it had like a fuel tally chart, how much they'd put in a week and stuff like that. It was just incredible. The documentations you got with this vehicle was amazing. Now, the bodywork was lovely. It was such a tidy example, but one thing that let it down was the engine bay. It was quite scabby, no holes, no rust holes, but it was just a bit scabby. It was I think it was a 1.3 litre crossflow engine that was fitted, but it just needed a little bit of tidying up, and I think it would have made a great motor. The inside looked immaculate. It looked like it hadn't been sat in, and the carpet was brand new. So yeah, it was a real one-off car. I don't think you'll find one that's done that low mileage in that condition. And yeah, I thought to myself, you know what, should I go for it? So I had my bidding cards in my pocket and it went under the hammer.
5.2, 5.4, 5.6, 5.8, 5.8, 6,000 pounds. I've seen it, 6,000 pounds. 6.2, 6.2, 6.4 is online. Sorry, 6.4 online. 6.6, 6.6, 6.6, 6.8, 6.8. £7,000 in the hall, £7,000. That's £7,400. I thought this would have made more. 7.5 online, 7.5, 7.6 in the hall, 7.6 in the hall, 8.5 online. You've been watching too many programs at 8.5 online, 8.5 online. Well, that's the offer. It's online at 8.5. It's going to be a provisional 8.5. Too much baggers in cash, too many. Listen to them because they're professionals. 8.5.
So that did make £9,350, and I didn't put a single bid in. I was just so nervous on a day. My heart was pumping so much. I was just watching it creep up, and I thought, not bad, not bad. And it did actually still sell provisional on the day, so it couldn't have sold at all. There was a possibility that it didn't sell, but the auction house and the vendor must have come to some sort of agreement because it did sell. And yeah, do I regret it? No, because I've already got one. But is that going to pop up again next year for £15,000? Probably. So yeah, such a clean car. All you needed to do was spend a couple of weekends on that engine bay, get it looking mint, and that would be a proper clean car with incredible low mileage. And one of the last cars I'm going to be featuring in this 2024 auction roundup is a little Citroen AX GT, which was at Anglia Car Auctions November Classic Car Auction. It was only last month that we watched this go under the hammer, and what a great example this was. Mint outside, mint inside. It had matching dealer number plates, and it also had recent mechanical work, including a head gasket, timing belt. It had had the works done, and it had even benefited from a respray and was on the road with valid MOT. You really couldn't ask for much more. If you wanted to go to an auction and buy an AX GT that you can cherish and love for years to come, this was the one for you. If you don't want to get your hands dirty, that's your car. And I was looking around this thinking, what a lovely example. I've never seen a AX GT at auction in this condition. I've seen a few before that are like non-runners and projects, but never one that was this clean. As I have been mentioning, the estimates do get you excited about these vehicles. The AX GT was estimated just £5,000 to £7,000. I thought anywhere within that bracket was quite reasonable, and well, I'll show you what happened when it went under the hammer.
That's £7,100, that's £7,100, that's £71, 72 anyway. That's 71, 72 now, 72. That's 72, 73. 73, back to the car, 73, we quickly becoming. That's 74, 74. That's 75. Now, only
the AX GT went over £1,000 over its higher estimate, sold for £8,100, which I thought was fair. I mean, they always say at these auctions, find another, and it would be quite hard to find another one in this sort of condition. So I thought that was strong money, but a lovely car. I said I was only going to feature 10 classic cars in this video, but we've got a bonus one. There was one car at Anglia Car Auctions November Classic Car Auction that I just really, really loved. And it wasn't a Ford. It wasn't a Ford. It would have thought. So, this was a BMW. It was a 2003 M3. Now, I just looked around this thing. I don't know what it was. I think possibly the paintwork. It was a lovely dark blue, and it also, I think it had a cream interior, if I remember rightly, or a dark. No, it's like a grey interior. But yeah, there was something about it that I just really loved. Now, this had a year-long MOT, and it also came with the original bill of sale for £40,000, and I knew that it was going to sell for a fraction of that price. I think there was something like 70 or 80,000 miles on the clock, which is fairly average, probably actually low mileage considering it's a 2003. And yeah, just looking around the car, I loved it. That dark blue with the diamond cut alloys, and yeah, you just know it's going to go like stink as well when you put your foot down. So when this went under the hammer, I was quite interested. The estimate was £14,000 to £16,000. I wasn't too clued up, and I'm still not too clued up on the prices of these. So we watched this one go under the hammer as well.
10, 8 only minutes on the down, 11 ring 2. 11 2, that's in the room, 11 2. Then 11 down 2, 11 4. 12 8, I'll take 13. That's 13 to big. 13 2. The final time I don't finish it on anywhere. I think that's a little winter we'll do that there. 17.
So that one sold bang on in the middle of its estimate, £15,120. But it was £40,000 new, so yeah, a fraction of the price when it was brand new. Yeah, it's used, but I still think that was a solid car. It sounded the nuts, and it just looked amazing. It was a true, a bit of an eye-opener for me to notice that it's not just all Fords I'm sort of going towards or making a beeline for. I do like other makes and models, but yeah, this was certainly one that opened my eyes to different vehicles. Well, that was just a selection of the classic cars that I featured on the channel over 2024. I think I must have recorded hundreds of cars this year. I really enjoy attending them, and as I say, I do like to travel all across the country. I do want to thank all the auction houses for being so welcoming to me. It's always a bit sort of sometimes daunting when you go in and you're like shoving a camera around the cars and that, but all of the classic car auctions I've attended are nice and friendly. They're open about sort of letting me showcase their auction and record it. So yeah, massive thank you to the auction houses. I do want to attend a few more new ones next year, so I'm going to try to get to every single classic car auction house within the UK, because there was a few that I missed out this year, and there's even one in Scotland that I've been meaning to do, so we'll head up there as well. And this is my last video for 2024, so I did want to thank all of you viewers for watching. If it wasn't for you, then, do you know what I mean, half of this wouldn't have been possible. By watching the video, subscribing to the channel and liking them, it just makes this all possible, and also helps me venture out and try new places, and also just keep this channel flowing like I love to do. Now, I've actually got an email that come through from YouTube, and I've actually had 1.8 million views in 2024, which just blows my mind. It's incredible, and it's so great to see many of you enjoying the videos, and the feedback I get in the comments is just amazing. I really do appreciate that, and thank you. Yeah, it's just crazy. Some of these stats are mental. I've had 44,000 likes on the videos combined. I've had well over 3,500 comments, and over 3,000 shares of the videos. It's just incredible. If I'd have told myself that I'd have been in this position 4 or 5 years ago, then I just wouldn't have believed myself. But I think, without turning this into some sort of inspirational outro, I think you sort of make your own luck. Do you know what I mean? I work hard and I put these videos out for you guys. You enjoy them, and then that in turn makes me work harder and create better videos. So I just want to thank you all for viewing and watching the videos in 2024. I hope you've all had an amazing Christmas, and I'm wishing you all the best and happiest new year. So that is me, Mark II Mitch, signing out for 2024. And just to give you a little sneak peek of what's coming for 2025, well, it is Project Car Year. We have got 2 cars in this garage which haven't been touched for quite some time, and I am motivated, I am dedicated, I'm going to put in the hours, and both of these cars are going to be done. This Mark I Fiesta behind me, which has got an ST170 engine in it currently, which doesn't run, is going to be finished, and also my Mark II Escort, which you can just about to see, is going to be finished in 2024. I'm motivated. I've messed around with them for too long, and yeah, they're both going to be on the road for 2025. I've said it now, so there's no going back. Anyway, guys, I hope you all have a great new year. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.